I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans. And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field. Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
You are listening to Season 3 of Let Him Cook from the Northwest Bank Studios. Nigel Dyson, it has been too long. We're back. It's been a long off season. Apologize to the listeners. Nigel, you kind of said this before we started recording. We didn't really have a goodbye episode. So
yeah, no.
What are kind of the goodbyes of last year?
I mean, there's a lot of goodbyes. Obviously, there's a goodbye to a basketball team that gave us a lot of good memories. Goodbye to a lot of inside jokes between Dylan and I, and of course, goodbye to losing the football teams in the national tournament. Because I'm tired of that. Let's say goodbye to that right now before we even start. You know, it's a tough way to go out, and obviously, I hope we can finish not only the season strong, but also this podcast season strong as well.
Goodbye to I got the shirt on, Keyshawn and Kurt. I mean, we can just jump right into it. I will say in our time off, Nigel, I know you know, but to the listeners, I was lucky enough to travel to Ireland with KCCI. I was there with our sports director, Scott Reister, and news anchor, Stacey Horst. Incredible experience. It was awesome to watch Iowa State in that beautiful stadium. I got rained on a bunch because I was on the field. But I do want to shout out, there was so many people that came up to me in Dublin and just said they like what we're doing on Let Him Cook. And it was so cool to see everybody. I think a lot of people, they see the hair that is now gone and they just like, not a lot of dudes with super long curly hair in the Des Moines media. So I think it was a safe bet for people to come up to me and be like, you're the Let Him Cook guy. But anyways, love talking to the people, love talking to Cyclone fans. I just want to shout everybody out, and just at Iowa State games and wherever I see them. Nigel, I'm around more Iowa State fans than you are because of living in central Iowa. So I want to share the love with you, because it was awesome to talk to everybody in Dublin.
No, yeah, and I appreciate obviously you doing that. I know you share the love with me in the moment too. As quick as people were to give love to Dylan, he let me know the love was being gave via text. So I want you guys to know that I feel that love too. So I appreciate all you guys, and I hope you keep doing the momentum going.
Nigel, we are in the middle of secret scrimmage season, and this is kind of the first season where these things aren't just like kind of message board fodder. These are being televised. People are paying to watch. People are paying Creighton's website to not watch for the first, 5 minutes. I wasn't able to watch that one because I was working that night, but kind of a weird new dynamic in college basketball. These secret scrimmages were just kind of to let teams practice against somebody other than themselves, see some real competition. Do you like that? I feel like we're trying to take too much analysis away from these scrimmages. We don't really know what lineups are going to look like still. You've got guys sitting out. So I don't know how much real analysis can be taken away. Like, a lot of these coaches are still kind of figuring things out on the fly. And they even do that in the first couple of regular season games, some of these tune-up games. How much do you care? How much do you think these secret scrimmages, in air quotes now, how much does this matter? How much can you really take away from these kind of games?
I think it matters a lot more than like who you're going to be playing game one of the season, because usually that is a kind of an easy win, kind of just let's roll the balls out. Let's get the crowd excited and enthusiastic about the team, regardless of how good your team is that year. But I think usually what you see in these like scrimmages is like teams you wish it could have scheduled for like Thanksgiving week or even a out of conference, regular season game, or like the ACC big SEC challenge or the Big 12, those challenge games like in early December. They're teams that are going to challenge you or that you could run into in the tournament. I know it happened a handful of times, within Creighton and Iowa State in the past. There've been plenty of other teams that scrimmaged early and then met again later on in the postseason. So it's good to kind of, before you even get out of those in front of those teams that you can sometimes are so much worse than you from a talent perspective, like sometimes play to their level or not be at your best because you're not playing a high standard team, to go out and like really get your first taste of a real competitive back and forth game. For that to be your first game of the season, even if whether it counts or not, I think is huge, and it does a lot for people's confidence. And I think you saw that early in our games of guys who could step up, and the new guys kind of making their impact as we had so many key pieces leave last year. So I like him. I wish we could have more of those exhibition games, just be regular season out of conference games. I'm so pro. Play Creighton, play Purdue, play whoever you can get on a schedule, as opposed to FDU or Grambling State. No disrespect, obviously, to those fan bases, but I just love when a season or an entire season, is loaded front to back. So definitely want to encourage that, and obviously push the aspect of playing them in the regular season going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Creighton, I think, has a chance to win the Big East. It'll be St. John's, UConn, and Creighton, I think, kind of battling for that in the Big East. And Iowa State plays them for real in Las Vegas in the Players Era tournament, which, by the way, Nigel, I'm going to come out and say it. I really think that is probably the best feast week tournament of all time. I think it's 18 teams are there, and like 12 of them are ranked. That's half of the ranked teams in the preseason are all playing in one tournament. So and a completely stacked field in Las Vegas. A bunch of Big 12 teams are there. The games that are happening for sure for Iowa State are Creighton and St. John's. And then depending on the outcome of those two games will determine the third team that they play there. Going back to the scrimmages, I do like the intensity surprised me a little. Like, I've never seen one of these games. I watched the Northwestern game. It feels pretty close to full speed. I'd say like 85, 90%. There were some like funny, just like moments. The ref, I don't remember which Northwestern player it was, but he was trying to get kind of clarification on what was the foul. The ref physically demonstrated what the player did, like hooked his arm under the Northwestern as they were walking down the court. So there is just some like weird gimmick, like you just wouldn't see that in a normal college basketball game. There was another moment, Momcilovic just kind of got an elbow to the face, shook it off, and then the Northwestern player came over and apologized. And Heisey jokingly kind of put his hand in the, like, should we review it? Like, is that a flagrant foul? They're not going to call flagrant foul in the secret scrimmage, but it was just funny to kind of, you could feel the pressure was off a little bit. I still think it was a competitive basketball game, but there were just some moments of levity where you're like, oh, this isn't, I mean, it feels like a real game. Like, you have the ESPN music, you have like the score bug, but for all intensive purposes, Iowa State is 0-0. For what it's worth, they split the games with Creighton and Northwestern 1-1. They missed their first 16 3-point attempts. I think between the two games, it was 16 or 18 before Heisey made one. And if you're going to miss 18 threes in a row, might as well do it in these two scrimmages before, any of these results actually affect your resume. So, I mean, I didn't have a whole lot to take away. What did you see from some of the young guys or some of the newcomers in these two scrimmages that you might kind of take away going into the season?
Yeah, I saw, I mean, there's a handful of returners, obviously, from last year's team, but to see there be obvious gaps in missing Keyshawn, missing Curtis, those guys have moved on to their professional careers. To see guys like Dominic Nelson, Killian Tourier, like those guys come in and not, obviously Dominic's had a bit of a taste of college basketball, but it hasn't been too high level. And then, for Killian to be like a brand new to college basketball period, I think it was really encouraging to see, freshmen kind of like take the same jump that Taman did a few years ago as a freshman starting point guard, and not be afraid of the moment and be aware of those missing, I guess, rotational spots and be willing to step up in those and obviously help us, get to the finish line here. But just really saw like promising things. And then to hear what TJ had to say about guys, brand new guys to not only college basketball, but also the program was really, I think, enlightening just to know that they're practicing these daily habits to become those consistent guys that can kind of step into those roles long term. So I'm excited for all of the new guys, even guys like from the portal, like Buchanan, who I know are not going to be, Armando Baycott, but you still be like a solid 5-man for us, and he'll play our brand of basketball. So I'm very, very excited to see what these new guys can bring to our team once the season is fully underwhelmed, kind of under wraps here. But just to see it even in a setting where things weren't that high pressure, to see them taking those moments seriously spoke volumes to what we could see going forward.
I was talking to a friend of the program, Jake Brenn, now with Cyclone Fanatic. That's changed in the offseason. So shout out Jake. I've known Jake for a long time. He's a great dude. I was really happy that he was able to take that position from Cyclone Fanatic. So shout out Jake. But he was telling me after media days, I was just asking him about some of the newcomers, and he said TJ was a little hesitant on Dominic Nelson. And I think it was some Jedi mind tricks. I think TJ was trying to kind of light a fire under Dominic Nelson because he said just like we want to see more out of him. TJ had lots of good things to say about the freshman, but he kind of challenged, I feel like, Dominic Nelson during media days to be like, you got to take that next step. And man, I mean, he was kind of player of the game against Northwestern. Just looked really good shooting it. I mean, he was kind of in a groove. He was hitting middies, hitting 3-pointers. He struggled at the free throw line at Utah Valley last year. I think he went 7 for 7 from the line against Northwestern. So, I mean, if he can be efficient, that's really all he needs to be. And at Utah Valley, I can't remember what conference they're in. Maybe the WAC.
I believe so.
But conference player of the year. So like he's got a bag and grew up in Miami, Florida. So, I know the high school scene down there is crazy. So he's been playing against D1 guys basically his whole life, even if like Utah Valley might've been a little easier than, high school hoops in Miami. So he's battle tested. And then these two freshmen, man, they were down on the field. I was at the BYU Iowa State football game, and the basketball players were down on the field before the game started. And Killian and Jamarian Bateman both walked by me. Those are some grown-ass men. Like, they are built for Big 12 basketball. I was like, I did not look like they did when I was 18. So I don't know if that's the strength and conditioning already having, just one summer and they're already built like to play in the Big 12, but maybe it was their high school program. I don't know, but those two dudes are solid. And Toure, I was telling you, kind of looks like a defensive football secondary player with number 27. I know you might be the pickiest person with basketball jersey numbers I've ever met, because I think the 27 looks awesome. I think that just embodies kind of who he is.
Here's the thing. I know any European or foreign basketball player is a lot more lenient with being more like pro non-traditional basketball jerseys. Yeah. Let's talk about another elephant in the room. College basketball just got with this like not too long ago. Being okay with wearing number 6 through 9, and like there are some numbers out there that people have. Like, to be a college basketball fan for 20 plus years now and just be so used to the traditional 0 through 5 and so on and so on. I think the highest number maybe was 55 ever in basketball for the longest time. So to see some of the creations that people are just requesting is downright crazy. I think only person until I saw Killian in this jersey who could get away with number 27 is probably Jamal Murray. And even on him, it's like, dude, the 23 when he was at Kentucky looked so much better than 27. But I am picky. I'm getting more accustomed to it, obviously, but it's new. So I guess I miss the past, and I guess it's gonna take guys like Luka and people who are trailblazers not only on the court but with the jersey number to kind of change my mind on that.
I was going to say, your boy, Luka Doncic, your Lakers, 77. That's a hard number for me to get over. That looks like an offensive tackle. I like for some, like, yeah, these untraditional basketball numbers, my mind just kind of goes to football. And I'm like, 77 is not really, I don't know. 27 I like. 77 is a tough pill to swallow.
And the thing is, it's like Luka would have been number 7 in Dallas had Dwight Powell not taken it. So it makes sense that like that was the only reason he wore that number, was just like, well, let me double it.
Right.
But like to see, I think about like a guy like Luka, like in this era of NIL, I think he would have just played college basketball just to experience it, right?
Yeah.
So like but mind you, he came in the draft class of like a DeAndre Ayton, like those guys, Trae Young, and that's when college basketball jerseys were traditional numbers. What number would he have chosen? Like that is always something that I've thought about in multiple scenarios. So it's funny now to see guys from overseas come over and really be able to express themselves and wear the numbers that they would wear overseas here in your traditional college basketball jerseys. So I mean, like, as much as I'm like, ew, I'm just like, all right, if he's good, I'll live with it.
Speaking of numbers, a very traditional one, especially in Iowa State history, the number 11, I almost want it to be treated like 58 is for Cyclone football, where it's kind of designated. Like I like, so you think Jamal Tinsley, Monte Morris, like just
Tatum
probably the
Tucker.
two best. Yeah. The two best point guards, the two best. Yeah, I don't think THT is breaking the third one there, but the two best point guards in Iowa State history have both worn number 11. Somehow that jersey still isn't retired, but I digress. And Dominic Nelson's wearing that number now. I think that's the best looking Iowa State number. 31 is kind of romanticized for me with Niang. 15 with Naz Long. A lot of these, it's just like the Cyclones I kind of grew up watching in middle school and high school. But number 11 looks so good. And I wish we kind of, like, Taman Lipsey has earned 11. I feel like that just should go to kind of the stud point guard that has kind of earned his stripes. And I feel like it should be given out as kind of an honor. If we're not going to retire it, we might as well kind of honor the legacy in its own way. So, but I love that he wore 11. I'm not sure if Dominic Nelson is familiar with what kind of that number means to Iowa State, but I always love seeing an Iowa State player wear number 11 because it brings back those memories of success that Iowa State has had with two of the best players in program history. So I don't know if that factored into his decision or not, but I feel like any kid growing up watching Iowa State basketball since at least when I was born, 11 is kind of in its own echelon of Iowa State basketball. Yeah.
If that's the case, then I guess you got to put Prentice Nixon in that conversation too. Like that, I see where you're going with the 11 conversation, but there's also like some questionable. Like,
there's some misses.
There's a spectrum, and I'm not saying Prentice Nixon's a scrub. I'm not saying THT's a scrub, but like they just had different careers than a Monte Morris or a Jamal Tinsley. So it's a funny like half semicircle there with the pedigree of numbers.
I do want to just talk a little bit about, like, I feel like just the nature of college basketball. I feel like almost just as many people are plugged in during the transfer portal as they are in, December and January and February, just because of how kind of chaotic and how much money's being thrown around. And, you're hearing, Iowa State's looking at this guy or this guy, and then you're looking on YouTube for their highlights and whatever. So I feel like the new guys kind of take the precedent, especially going into the season. But one thing that I think separates Iowa State is how much continuity, how much they're returning from last year. Taman Lipsey, who, like I said, I think he's right up there with some of the best point guards in Iowa State history. Joshua Jefferson, who was a breakout star last year, I think he could be a first team or second team Big 12 guy this year. Momcilovic, who I think is going to be asked to do a lot more scoring in the absence of Kurt and Keyshawn. And then Nate Heisey, who ended the year super hot, looked really good against Northwestern on Sunday, and hopefully kind of picks up right where he left off. And then the Central Iowa boy himself, Cade Kelderman, played some meaningful minutes down the stretch of last season. So having those five guys return, you just don't see that really anywhere in college basketball. Houston's got quite a few returners, Texas Tech, but like a lot of these top 10 teams are doing it with new guys. Purdue's got a lot of continuity, but for the most part, a lot of these teams just kind of reload and restock. And I think Iowa State's got a good mix of old and new, and I think and that's kind of what TJ's done. He's done a really good job of kind of maintaining cores of guys. Kept Kurt and Keyshawn 2 years. Taman's been here all 4. Momcilovic is in year 3. Jefferson's back for year 2. So odds, the staff, the NIL situation, being able to keep that core is so big, and kind of teaching the new guys. You just hear all the time, they say Iowa State's not for everybody when they talk about this basketball program. It's a demanding style of play, but to have those guys kind of set the tone and to have that senior leadership, I think it's so important for these new guys to kind of see how it's done here. I just think that's going to go a long ways in those later months.
I really wanted to restrain myself from talking about Duke. But I got to fact check you. They also returned all of their returners from last year. So you add them to the conversation, but I digress. That's not even the point I want to make.
Cooper Flagg is playing point guard in the NBA.
I'm talking about Caleb Foster, Malik Brown, those guys. Anywho, like I said, I digress. I think like you said, given the NIL situation, a lot of reason for people to leave. I know Jefferson was a big one that was kind of had us all in an anxious state of mind in that April, May era of this year. So for him to kind of buy into what we were doing here and be, 10 toes down with the Cyclones, definitely want to give a shout out to that guy for believing in our program and sticking it through. Cause it's easy to go to LSU and just chase the bag and, just do everything for, what brand you play for. Right. And it's like, it's a lot cooler in my opinion to build something, as much as, it is easy and makes sense to go to those bigger schools. But to see, like you said, the core kind of group here, just kind of stick it through. And, like you said, Iowa State's not for everyone. So, when you see people who say, well, I'm staying, so I'm technically telling you like Iowa State's for me. I think it means a lot about their character. And I know that's like a big, pedigree of what TJ recruits on. So obviously it's really good to see a lot of people bought in year in and year out with TJ and those guys, everyone you just named, especially I think of Heisey, you think of Picture Day. Those guys had like Band-Aids on their faces and I was like, did we just have a street fight before Picture Day? Why are people injured on Picture Day? It proves that Iowa State's not for everybody. And it takes a certain type of person with a certain type of psyche to kind of withstand a 4-year career, a 1-year career, 2-year career here. And it's like you said, it's not for everybody. So the people who do stick around, it definitely means a lot.
I don't know if you saw this, Iowa State athletics or Iowa State basketball Twitter page. They did like an MMA training. Like we're not beating the allegations of like, like that's what we're doing in practice is we're getting in a steel cage and we're throwing punches. So it just like TJ is like, he's an MMA nut. So like, I think that's where that's where that came from. But it was funny to just like, you kind of joke about that kind of thing. It's like, what is, like they got black eyes, they got Band-Aids on. Like, what the hell are they doing? Legitimately, they're training in MMA fighting. So, come to Iowa State, come play for Iowa State, do some kickboxing, play some basketball. But no, it's great to see Joshua Jefferson back. I do want to say, like, you never know what goes on in these kind of portal windows. One guy that I was just laser focused on, and I do have a South Dakota State kind of line. I did a semester there. My dad graduated from South Dakota State. So Oscar Clough, Nigel, I just love a man that goes out and rebounds. And that guy rebounds. He's just got the feel for it. He's got that like sixth sense of like, that video of like Dennis Rodman where he's just like, he can't explain how he knows where the rebound's going to go. Oscar Clough has that same thing. They're just like, he's not super athletic. And it's going to be interesting how he fits at Purdue, and Iowa State's going to see him obviously at Mackey Arena. So we're going to get a look at him. But I mean, I think besides that, and like I said, you're really looking for your fifth option. Like you have 4 guys that I'm very confident in. So you didn't have to hit the portal and going, big game hunting. That's kind of what happened when we went for Kurt and Keyshawn. It was like, we need some guns. We need some weapons. And I feel like Otts and the staff kind of looked at the roster and said, hey, we're pretty happy with what we're bringing back. Let's just go get some pieces that kind of complement what we already have going here. I think Blake Buchanan's going to do a good job. Same thing. I think the defense is probably the hardest learning curve for these guys that come into the program. I saw Bateman and I saw Buchanan, mostly the off-ball defense. Buchanan kind of got beat off the dribble a couple of times. But, I mean, if he can just kind of stay in the post, and he doesn't even have to block a bunch of shots, but if he can just affect shots and make guys think twice before going up and laying it in, if they have to pass out of a double team, that's the one thing I was really pleased with. We were doing a great job double teaming. I feel like we might be switching a little more on the perimeter than we have in years past. Maybe that was just something they were trying out against Northwestern. But this defense is tough. That's kind of the thing that takes a while for guys to get a hold of. Heisey had the same thing last year where it's just like, it takes some time. You got to really trust everybody on your team because you're kind of leaving guys wide open. And that's an awkward thing to do as a defender, knowing you're full out leaving your guy to trap another guy and just kind of hoping that guy's going to cover you. I think that just takes time and it takes trust. But besides that, I feel like things are gelling pretty well. We obviously haven't seen Lipsy, who's out, but it feels like he might be coming back. I was hoping to get him back before Mississippi State, but it sounds like he's got a chance to play against Fairleigh Dickinson in the season opener. So as far as continuity goes, I mean, is there a certain timeline where like you said, this non-conference is different than what we've seen in the previous seasons under Ott. And I'm sure the national pundits are still going to find a way to say Iowa State hasn't played anybody in the non-conference, but it's like, hey, man, yeah, that's some teams. Yeah, Mississippi State in a neutral site, kind of neutral. Sioux Falls is obviously a lot closer to Ames than it is to, I don't know where Mississippi State is, but shout out to that city. And then a lot of good teams in Las Vegas, and then you got at Mackey Arena right into Cyhawk. So, I mean, that's no rest for the wicked there. And then 2 good tune-up exhibition games against, I think Northwestern might surprise some people in the Big Ten. They got a top 100 recruit, and then that Martinelli could be, first team all Big Ten. So I know there's some teams that are, Nigel, I think part of this too is you look at some of these KenPom rankings. I don't know how much, what's the difference between the 350th best team and the 250th best team? I even think if we scheduled more of the 150 to 250 KenPom teams, that just metrically might make the non-conference look a little better. I know it's just really high highs and really low lows on this non-conference.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know how hard it is to do this, and it's not it's a lot easier said than done. I think the lowest pedigree of person that we should be scheduling is Horizon League, Cleveland State, UW Milwaukee, a game that's not going to be a cakewalk, but it's also going to be if we're ready, this could be open gym. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I love the old throwback from a few March Madnesses ago to open up the season with Fairleigh Dickinson. But that's not the same Fairleigh Dickinson that beat Zach Edey and the boys. So I know, I'm aware who we're actually playing. I know Houston Christian, they're, I believe, a D2 team, if I'm not mistaken. I think
they're D1. They're newly D1.
They're newly, okay. Because when I was covering Northwestern State, I think they were still D2. Yeah. And they were the team everyone would beat up on in that conference. So it makes sense that I would like to see a bit better of a pedigree when it comes to the top and the bottom half of this schedule, but the middle is the cream of the crop. I really do like this. I can see the things I've been griping about in the past few seasons on this show is I want to play more people in the off season, in the regular season, out of conference games, and again, to challenge guys like Purdue, to challenge guys like Mississippi State, to challenge guys like a Seton Hall, I'm sorry, not Seton Hall, St. John, excuse me. That's the difference maker this year. To be able to test some of the nation's best, and not be worried so much about wins or losses, because we're already in the TJ era of Iowa State basketball. We're already respected. Let's actually go out there and challenge ourselves and really see what we're made of, so that we can kind of go from there, and kind of really build an identity for ourselves. It's one thing to. We beat Carolina. We've already beaten some high level teams in the TJ era. So I think if that doesn't give you confidence, now's the best time to beef up the schedule. And I can see that they're doing that. Even last year, them being in Maui, it kind of really showed that we weren't scared of the big moment, taking Auburn to the final second. So it really did speak volumes, and I'm glad TJ and his staff were able to kind of embrace a harder out of conference schedule. And obviously, I'm really excited about this upcoming few weeks here.
I also think like some of these teams present a really fun, like Mississippi State. I think is it Josh Hubbard? Am I getting that right?
I believe so.
It's like a 5'9", 5'10" point guard, can really fill it up. I feel like Taman Lipsey, one of the best defensive point guards going against one of the best offensive point guards. That'll be a lot of fun. And the Sanford Pentagon is a weird arena. Like it's just like, it's a weird vibe in there. I've been in there before, and it's just like the way that arena's built on the inside. It doesn't look like a whole lot of other basketball arenas. So that'll be fun. A lot of like Iowa State fans from where I grew up, Northwest Iowa, like that'll be a fun trip to Sioux Falls. I'm sure there are a lot of Cyclones in Sioux City and Sioux Falls that'll be there too. So that's just a cool kind of neutral site game where Cyclones that usually have to drive 3 hours to watch Iowa State basketball, it's kind of in their backyard. And then like Purdue, Creighton, two really high potent offenses. St. John's has as good of a defense as we do. I feel like everybody on that team is 6'8", and they're all small forwards and power forwards, and somehow Rick Pitino is going to have them play basketball. So, and then Iowa, like Bennett Sturts, another really good offensive guard that, defensively, we're going to have our hands full just individually with Bennett Sturts. So it's just a lot of different looks. It's a lot of different kinds of teams that I think should prepare Iowa State for, as always, a really tough Big 12 slate. And Nigel, you like to say we're done with the 90s. I'm going to say we're done with the SEC. The SEC kind of took over college basketball for a year, and I think the Big 12 is going to take its crown back. The Big 12 has been the cream of the crop for the most part for the last 4 or 5 years in college basketball. I think we're taking the crown back. I think the kind of the middle of the SEC is going to fall off a little bit. You still have your Florida, you still have your Kentucky, your Tennessee, but as far as like the Ole Miss and like some of those mid-tier teams, I think they're going to take a step back. I don't think they'll be as deep as they were a year ago, like in Missouri, like some of those teams where if you caught them on a good night or a bad night, they could upset one of those teams. I don't think it's going to happen this year. So I could be wrong. And I love the Big 12. And we're going to talk to the Big 12 as a whole. But before we get to that, I feel like Iowa State maybe isn't getting quite the respect it was getting going into last season. Kurt and Keyshawn were kind of known commodities. Like we said, we have a lot of known guys. We know what Taman Lipsey can do. We know what Joshua Jefferson can do. We know what Momcilovic can do. But we don't have that same kind of shine, I don't think. We're getting picked to finish like 5th or 6th in the Big 12. Lunardi has us as a 5 seed right now, which would be the lowest seed we've had in the past 2 years. How do you feel about this team? Obviously, it's super early, this kind of prediction radio. Are you kind of with them? Do you think we take, just a minor step back this year? Or do you think this team can kind of find that same heat that the last 2 seasons have found?
Yeah, no, I think obviously, excuse me, this team, from the eye test, I think takes a step back. But again, I need to see them fully healthy and one of those competitive games. I'm not going to be able to tell by FDU. Like I know we love to give game by game analysis, game in and game out here on this show, but like I'm just not going to get a real feel until we really do get tested around the Thanksgiving week time frame. So I want to obviously be optimistic, but as we'll talk about in a little bit, like who we have in the power rankings. I don't even think Iowa State's in the top 5 going into the season. Again, I knowing what I know, I don't know much. A lot of new faces. Even our returners are in heavier roles, so I don't know how they're going to carry that weight this year. So I don't know necessarily how things are going to turn out, but I think we take a step back. But I think, this year's team probably could have a ceiling of kind of like TJ's first year with, Brockington, Gabe, kind of just like a lot of new guys. We don't know what to expect, but they're going to go out there and they're going to play TJ's brand of basketball. And obviously that was a pretty successful recipe with that squad, making the Sweet 16. So I don't want to put too many expectations on this year's roster. I would like to rally back my expectations to then be really taken if we do exceed those and obviously do even more.
Yeah, Aiden was literally saying the same thing before we started this podcast. Of this team kind of reminds him of the first couple of years of TJ's campaign at Iowa State. And I don't want to oversimplify things, but like the brand of TJ's defense, like I don't think you play at Iowa State if you can't play defense. Like you might get recruited here, but if he finds out you can't play defense, you're probably going to transfer the next year, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So like we know the defense is going to be there. It might be as simple as, are the shots falling? Like we have a lot of guys that might be like Momcilovic, as hot as he can get, he can go 1 for 8. We've seen him do it. He can have off nights. If this team has an off night, I don't think defense is going to be enough to win you, 14 games in the Big 12 schedule. So it might come down to, hey, are we shooting good enough from 3-point land? It's gonna, like, you're gonna be asking guys like Lipsy and Heisey and Momcilovic, and Jefferson is probably gonna shoot more threes this year. So it's gonna come down to, how efficient are we on offense? And Nigel, I was a big proponent of this last year, but if we're gonna switch on defense, and we have Joshua Jefferson, who is one of the most unique basketball players in college basketball, please play small ball. Try it out. Like, if you throw Joshua Jefferson out there as the 5, almost automatically you have 5 guys that can pass, shoot, and bring the ball up. And in a team that's going to need some extra offense, you might take a step back defensively, but the way we double in the post, like, I'm not too worried about Jefferson. There's not too many bigs that will just dominate Jefferson one-on-one, and we're going to bring help anyways. So I think it's a great opportunity to kind of play like a small ball, like Warriors death lineup where they had KD running the 5. Like, I'm not saying Joshua Jefferson and Kevin Durant are the same person, but like both very versatile kind of stretch 4 guys that have a better handle than most guys their size. Jefferson's a much better passer than most guys his size. I just want to see him utilized as kind of that potential he has. There's not a lot of guys in college basketball that can do the things he can do. And I think playing small ball will really kind of complement his skill set and open up a lot of things on offense. But hey, man, it might come down to, did we make enough 3-point shots or not? The defense is going to be good, but it'll come down to, are the shots falling? Also might come down to, are we playing at Hilton or not? Because I feel like defense travels, but it's a lot easier to get hot, and you see some shots go in at home, and that's contagious. So Hilton brings a different aspect to it too, but yeah, there might be some streaky shooting nights. It might have some Brockington flashbacks where we're just going to need a guy to say, hey man, you're the dude, take over, please.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because, like, as much as you bring up, we got to make shots, I think our brand of basketball sometimes defensively, and not because we're not doing things correctly, but it doesn't travel well because the officials are from the school of the deaf and blind. And it just, like, you're not going to get the same whistle in Lubbock, Texas that you would in Ames. So I think it's to be aware of your surroundings, be aware of, all right, that's what we're going to do today. And kind of being able to adjust on the fly, and while still playing like aggressive defense, like don't lose that identity. Right. But like still letting it essentially kind of where you're playing with the same level of intensity, just a bit smarter. Like, you can't get away with all the physicality in the world that you could at Hilton, where, you trap one guy on the sideline and TJ's got his hands up too as the third defender right behind him. Like, we can't do that in Lubbock. They're gonna tee him up. So again, as much as I completely agree with you, is that, offense needs to travel, defense needs to travel. I think situations matter. I think the Big 12 this year is very top heavy. So you're going to know what teams you got to bring it those nights. And then you guys obviously know what teams you can kind of coast and might be a pretty easy win. But even those games in this league can get you. You blink and UCF is beating Kansas at their place. Right. So it's no one's safe, but it's just a matter of kind of having the self-awareness to kind of be able to adjust and be able to kind of respond to any type of adversity, no matter how it hits you.
Yeah, and this, I mean, you could say this about any team in America, but staying healthy, and I only really bring it up because how we've seen kind of the last 2 seasons end with a team that's not at full strength. This team's not super deep. We've got some bench pieces for sure. I mean, Kurt Jones was literally the best bench player ever. Screw it. But you just don't, to my knowledge, you don't have a guy like that. Mason Williams is a name we haven't said. If he's healthy this year, what could that do? It kind of reminds me of Jeremiah Williams, where it's just like, we'll never know. Like, hopefully Mason Williams is back next year and we'll see his potential in Iowa State uniform. He was good enough to convince Joshua Jefferson to wear a different number. So that, I don't know what that says, but Joshua Jefferson's wearing 5 now and Mason Williams is wearing 2. And so
I feel
I don't
like
know.
Joshua took that step before the freshman did, but I like where your head's at. I like the idea of he had that much influence on the team. Yeah, the red shirt. Sure, yeah, you can have my jersey. It's chill. Let him have
Here
it.
it is.
It's cool. No, I mean, is the way you feel about 11 with jersey numbers. I feel like 5 is like equally as iconic.
5's great. I grew up a huge Kevin Garnett Celtics fan. I will say nothing bad about the number 5 on a basketball jersey.
But think about 5s in Cyclone jerseys. Like obviously Curtis did wonders in that uniform. Lindell Wigington, not on the best Cyclone teams, but had a lot of highlights.
The highlight reel is nuts, and he was so like. So that's when I was a student at Iowa State. Like that dunk on Kadeem Latin, I was probably in a dorm room when that happened. Oh my God! And if he would have landed that on 2 feet, I think that's kind of the downfall of that, is he kind of belly flopped the court. But
it's kind of better that he belly flopped. Like I'd rather have that, to be perfectly honest. The fact that he was fine, it's kind of makes it awesome. Like he was gonna kill anyone in his way, and I love that energy. But no, 5 is equally up there with number 11 Cyclone jersey, because 31, it's like no one's made that number cool except George. So I think those are my 2 favorite Cyclone numbers, and then obviously 22 for obvious reasons.
Shout out Tyrese. If nobody's watched Starting 5, NBA is not as big of a deal in the state of Iowa, but I highly recommend watching Starting 5 on Netflix. I almost cried. That Pacers run, we haven't talked since then either. That Pacers playoff run is about as tuned in as I've been to NBA basketball in a very long time. That was absolutely electric to follow. Obviously not the result Iowa State fans and Tyrese wanted, but man, was that fun to watch. He took over, like he was the epicenter of the basketball world for like a month straight. And it was so cool. And proposed to his longtime girlfriend, who was a cheerleader at Iowa State, in Hilton Coliseum. What a year for
Disney
Tyrese
Channel
Halliburton.
story, man.
For sure. For real.
I think he did it in the boot too. Crazy.
Yeah, he did.
Love is not dead. Remember, folks,
with
love
the
is not
Netflix
dead.
cameras rolling. So with that, a little bit of sidetracked, let's get back to the Big 12 here. Aiden, we were working with you earlier today. We're going to talk about the power rankings here and then pick our first team all Big 12. And I'm going to get on a soapbox for a little bit. I know conferences are way too big now. We got 20 friggin' teams in a conference, but please go back to having only 5 guys on your first team. If you feel the need to have 8 guys on a first team, 3 of those guys should probably be second team. We're handing out 15 of these things as it is. I don't know. That's just there's only 5 guys on a basketball court. Why do we have 9 guys first team all Big 10? It doesn't make any sense. 4 of those guys should probably
I think it's so
not
we don't
be
ruffle any feathers.
But who cares? Get good.
No, I know.
Be better.
Hey, we're on the same team here. All I know is
participation medals.
No, and I fully agree. Like I think it's good to kind of put a spark under some people and see how they respond. So I think because of the watered downness that is Kansas State basketball now, I don't know if PJ gets the same love that one should be giving him. I mean, I know you were big on him, but like, I don't know if as a whole college basketball is gonna be like, now that's a kid you got to look out for. It's gonna be just like he's gonna be one of those guys that's just like had a really good year, like a Desmond Bain at TCU. Like they weren't anything like cinema to see about, but like he still made the league. So with those type of guys, I think those guys can be the guys that get snips from a kind of a first team, second team, all preseason Big 12. And then kind of just see how you respond. But I totally agree. No matter how big the conferences get, you could have 45 teams in there, still pick your top 5 dudes and let the chips fall where they may.
Aiden, that being said, do we have some graphics on standby here? All right. This
Look at that head of hair.
I know that. The hair's gone. I need a new headshot. Nigel and I were saying we missed Cyclone Fanatic Media Days. A little throwback picture. I really wanted to find a way to get Taman Lipsey and Joshua Jefferson in here, but there's so many good bigs in the Big 12. It was just hard. I think there's a lot of hype about Darren Peterson. Milo Suzanne is a great point guard. I just feel like Taman Lipsey, I mean, there's a power vacuum right now at Iowa State. Like, someone's going to have to fill the stats that Kurt and Keyshawn had, and I think Taman, as well as anyone, knows what his basketball teams, and if he needs to score more, he can score more. I felt like he didn't feel the need that he had to when you got Kurt and Keyshawn on your team. So I think his points go up a little bit. I think his defense stays just as amazing as it always has been. The leadership's going to be there. The hustle's going to be there. I expect Iowa State to be a really competitive team in the Big 12. You were just talking about PJ Haggerty. Look, I don't think Kansas State's going to be that good, but I think for the same reason that like Bennett Sturts is probably going to be first team All Big Ten, he's going to score because nobody else will. Like, just because of kind of the opposite of Taman, where it's like, you're the guy. You're one guy and you got four guys around you, and PJ Haggerty's probably going to score 20 plus points a game. Scored a bunch at Memphis and might have had a better supporting cast around him at Memphis last year than he will at Kansas State this year. So PJ Haggerty's just going to score a bunch. That's why I think he's here. AJ DeBansa. Nigel, I could do a whole podcast right now about how much I don't like what BYU's basketball program is doing. BUY, they're just buying players from other teams. But AJ DeBansa should be, as good of a freshman as there is. Cooper Flagg just had an incredible freshman year at Duke last year. But, I mean, you think of those kinds of guys, right? That is just, very clear, oh, this guy's going to be the number one NBA pick. He looks different. These secret scrimmages have also kind of given you a sneak peek. I think he had 37-7 against Illinois, and you're just like, oh, my God. So I think he's a real deal. Joseph Tugler and JT Toppin, those are just kind of two proven dogs. JoJo Tugler is just what Houston basketball is. They're going to have a guy like that as long as Kelvin Sampson is there. Just 6'10", mean as hell, 8 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. Just the plus minus is crazy. And then JT Toppin, returning Big 12 National Player of the Year. I think he's got an outside chance to win Naismith Player of the Year. Texas Tech's going to be real good. I think him and Christian Anderson are as good of a 1-2 punch that college basketball has. I think those two guys are the truth. Christian Anderson's another guy that's probably just off the list. If I could sneak in an honorable mention here, St. Bonaventure, I've kind of adopted them. I don't even know when this started, but I've always loved my Bonnies. And I was watching a lot of Melvin Council Jr. last year at St. Bonaventure. He's going to be the 2 guard at Kansas this year. And he didn't put out, his stats aren't crazy, but he was so good in the clutch. He just kind of has that clutch gene. He would just take over in the last 5 minutes, rarely made a mistake in the final 2 minutes, was ice on the free throw line. I think he could be a real difference maker. I think he's something that Bill Self has been missing on these past couple of Kansas teams. Probably better than someone the name's escaping me, South Dakota State, Zeke Mayo. Yeah. A step up from that. Longer, stronger, faster, probably just better built for the Big 12. So I understand why it's hard to do this, but those are my 5. You could interchange them with about 7 other guys.
No, I totally agree. Our lists are pretty similar. Aiden, if you want to roll the clip. Oh, who's that studious young man? Oh.
Hey-o, suit and tie.
Oh, man, I need a new headshot too. But nonetheless, my top 5 for the all Big 12 preseason team is obviously Taman Lipsey. I remember he made a comment earlier telling media that, if I could play at Iowa State for a few more years, I would. You can't. High School Musical senior year, it's now or never. Show these people what you're made of and go get yourself a 2-way. Okay? That's my advice to Taman Lipsey. I think he can do it. I think he can have that type of Monte Morris senior year. Now it's time to go out there and kind of show the people what you're made of. But I think once he's fully healthy, once he's fully in a rhythm, he's really going to be must-see TV. And kind of learning at such a young age in college basketball to be a well-rounded player and to do different facets of the game, hustling, passing, rebounding, scoring, shooting, improving his jump shot drastically throughout his 3 years here. I think he's really going to be able to take that next leap. And I think that next leap is, being not only the guy for Iowa State, but also being a face of the Big 12. So he was kind of a no-brainer for my point guard spot. I think Jamal Sheed, when he was in his last year at Houston, I think he can kind of be that kind of guy.
Great pick.
Hopefully he doesn't twist his ankle in the Sweet 16. Knock on wood, obviously. But hoping he has that type of blockbuster year. My second pick at the 2 guard, Darren Patterson out of Kansas. I hate to say it because I hate to gas up any Jayhawk, especially on this podcast, but he's a dude, as Jerome Tang would say. He's a dude, and I think between him, AJ DeBonsa, and Cameron Boozer, a lot of teams are going to be sucking on purpose this year. Pause.
Yeah.
And they're all must-see TV, and I think you don't lose with any of those guys. But to have 2 of those people, 2 of those must-see freshmen in the Big 12 this year it's going to bring a lot of eyeballs, obviously, but it's also going to be a huge challenge for Iowa State, to be able to send those guys home with a loss. It's not going to be easy. Those guys can kind of get it wherever they want it. So it's a matter of teams like us, trying to be, as opposed to, I should say, a fist is harder than one finger. A fist beats one finger every day. A Hall of Fame coach said that. I don't remember who, but I digress. Nonetheless, I think Darren Patterson and AJ DeBonsa are going to have huge years, lottery picks. So they've got the 2 and 3 spot here for my preseason team. And then obviously Richie Saunders, older guy, BYU. I think he's going to be able to play off of AJ really well. I think AJ is going to be quite the playmaker this year. So I think, BYU is not only going to be a top team in the Big 12 and probably in the country, but I think his ability to shoot, his ability to get to the rack, he's a strong kind of Corey Kispert type body, that 6'7" shooter, but he's like burly. So I think he's going to be able to really feed off of not only the rest of the team at BYU, but also a must-see player like DeBansa. And then obviously JT Toppin, he's must-see TV as well. Texas Tech is going to be really good this year. I'm really excited because, my teams get to play them twice this year. So I might have a little Texas Tech fatigue before Christmas. But nonetheless, I'm very excited to see, what these 5 guys can bring to college basketball this year, and obviously to, a great conference like the Big 12. Yeah,
that is a lot of similarities. BYU is going to be able to fill it up. That team's got a whole lot of weapons. The whole league's good. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I really think the Big 12 is kind of in for a bounce back year. There's so many good players on so many different teams. Speaking of teams, the last thing we got for you is some power rankings here. And I feel like Iowa State has been a little disrespected. I don't remember if it was the coaches' rankings or if this is media, but I'm seeing this kind of 5 and 6. And I really believe in continuity. Go with what you know. I know Houston's really good. I know Texas Tech's really good. I know Iowa State's really good. Those are the 3 kind of proven teams. They're bringing a lot back from last year in the Big 12. And, look, Houston was minutes away from being a national championship, and they kind of retained that core that they had last year. So
don't remind me.
Sorry.
Continue.
Yeah. You're really not going to like red teams from Texas.
Never have.
Yeah. And then Texas Tech is the other one. They're as I was saying, Joshua Jefferson is just such a unique college basketball player. I think JT Toppin is right there with him. And man, I was just on college basketball Reddit. If JT Toppin would have stayed at New Mexico with Donovan Dent, who might be a first-team All-American at New Mexico, that would have been crazy. They would have been a 2 seed out of New Mexico. Those 2 guys on the same team would have been nuts. But Iowa State at 3, again, just the core that's returning. I think some of the new guys will just step up almost by happenstance. It's just some guys going to have to score more points. And then you got Kansas. I think Bill Self is reinvigorated. He's been on a friggin' mission in recruiting. He's signed so many big names for 2026. I think he did a good job of I think the past couple years, Kansas has just been big game hunting in the transfer portal. They're just let's go out and get the biggest names, Hunter Dickinson, AJ Storr. Let's get the biggest wow factor guys. We can pay anybody we want. I think Bill Self was hold on, let's build a freaking team. And I think he did a better job, just roster top to bottom. And then BYU at 5 is probably too low. Man, I just hate everything they stand for. Just they're all NIL, they're all money, they're all flash. They got the number one AJ DeBanza. Like, I don't like it. Richie Saunders, like that team's going to be all like wheeling and dealing and threes, and that's not my brand of basketball. There's a reason Houston's number one, and Iowa State's at number 3. I like rock fights. I like defense. So BYU kind of takes a hit. Arizona's probably right there at 6. And again, it's just like they're leaning on some freshmen. They're leaning on new faces. Caleb Love, can we get a round of applause? No longer playing college basketball.
I was about to say, for what?
For getting the hell out of college basketball. Like, I just don't have to worry about that guy.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I've got no clue what G League team he's on. Like, I don't have to worry about him the rest of my life. So
he actually played against the Lakers yesterday, and he was shocking. He was getting them up. So he won't be there for long. I'll tell you that.
So that's my 5. Big 12 is going to be real good this year.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So a few similarities. I'm a bit bigger on Arizona just because they have a really good pedigree of, performing well with freshmen. Last year with Carter Bryant, in past years, guys like Aaron Gordon and other, big time freshmen like DeAndre Ayton. So regardless of what conference they're in, they always know how to perform with young guys. So that's why I'm big on them. I know they got a really good recruiting class coming in. One of them being the son of LeBron James, Mr. Bryce Maximus James, rocking number 6. Now that's a guy. It's like, okay, I get it. Feel free, rock that number. That's your family number. I get it. But it's a no-brainer. Top team to finish this year, I believe, is probably going to be Houston. Despite them being younger, they're bringing in some new guys. It has had people of the media a little hesitant on them. But again, Kelvin Sampson, it just manages to get a freshman every year, like Jamal Shed, like a what's his face from Pistons, Marcus Sasser, like those guys. They all came in as freshmen and became the players they were when they left Houston. So I have no problem I have no doubt in my mind that with the returning guys, like you mentioned, guys like Emmanuel Sharp even are coming back. Like for those guys to be coming back with a young core around them too, I think they're really going to be able to make some noise and obviously continue to, the dominance that they've had in the last few years in the Big 12. Texas Tech, like I said, going to be really good. JT Toppin leading the crew there. And then obviously Kansas, like you said, they've really actually developed a team and have a dude in Darren Patterson. So I think, it's going to be a team that actually complements each other and is not just like you said, a big flashy team that is just out here, collecting checks and losing games to UCF and things of that nature. So hopefully they take a jump because the way they went out last year was just sorry. I believe losing to Arkansas. Yeah. Can't do that again. And then obviously BYU going to be big time basketball. I don't know specifically, but I know he gave us some trouble. Number 30, he was a point guard, kind of stocky point guard on BYU.
Dalen Hall. I think so. He's either, I don't think he's at BYU anymore. I can't remember if he transferred or if he graduated, but I don't think he's returning.
Gotcha.
Get the research department on that, but I'm not sure if he's coming back. Because I even think Iowa State was kind of looking at him in the portal, if I remember right. So he might have either transferred somewhere else or he's
on a mission trip or something.
Yeah, probably.
In Costa Rica or whatever. No, yeah, for sure. Oh, he's at Virginia now. That's sure. Fitting. That's fitting. Nonetheless, though, I think they're still going to be a really solid team. I think Saunders can kind of play himself into the second round of the NBA draft this year. I think AJ, like I said, is going to be a big time player. So excited to see what they're going to bring to the league. And then Arizona to finish out my top 5. Again, I was one of those people who didn't want to put Iowa State too far. I think, again, comparing them to the first year TJ was here, Brockington's year, we were a 6th seed in that Big 12 tournament.
I think we were the 11th seed and we upset the 6th and the 3 seed. I think LSU was the 6 and Wisconsin was the 3.
No. The Big 12 tournament. We were the 6th seed because we lost we got creamed by Texas Tech in the quarterfinals. So I think if we're not in the top 5 this year, I think we'll be right under. I think if we'll beat a few of those teams in the top 5, get our name in the middle of the pack. But nonetheless, I want to set my expectations semi-low so that people can do nothing but raise them going forward. Obviously, anything lower than that in my mind would be a disappointment. But still, nonetheless, very excited about what this season is going to bring, and obviously happy to be doing this pod the whole way around.
Nigel, I know you're going to keep a close eye on Duke, but before we get out of here, is there another team in college basketball where just like, whether it's new faces or something about it where you're like, I'm going to keep my eye on that team. I think people are sleeping on them.
Not sleeping on them because like I'm not you. I don't watch St. Joseph's at 10 o'clock at night on a Monday.
Somebody has to.
Monday
Somebody
evening.
has to.
I guess it's not gonna be me, but a team that I'm very big on. Again, I want to see how they respond to last year, because it's like it's easy to respond when you don't win a national championship. You have all the feel in the world to strive for something you haven't been able to get yet. But Florida, I think, to get a lot of returners, to lose some guys to the draft, but get some really good guys in the portal, I'm curious to see how they're going to mesh. They're really, really tall, like Purdue level tall this year. So I that's a team I'm keeping my eye on, just because like I'm more worried about like who are teams we can run into in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and Final Four. Everyone else is kind of just noise. But I think we at TJ's era of Iowa State basketball, we've kind of hit the Sweet 16 pedigree so much that it's like, let's kind of break through that wall this time. Let's keep our eye on the prize. I'm not going to even say this is a Final Four team right now. They would have to genuinely prove that to me of beating some of these teams that are in their schedule. But I as a college basketball fan, and at the end of the day, very big on Florida, very big on Texas Tech. So a lot of teams that we're going to probably run into down the line. BYU, I'm curious about, because it's like I in my mind it makes sense for Debanza to be the playmaker, to be the guy that can kind of make everyone around him better while getting his. I'm curious to see how they're actually going to mesh, just because I know they have all the resources in the world, all the money in the world, and they got a former NBA guy running their program over there. So they've been able to kind of maintain now quite the image. So it's going to be an exciting year. I'm very pumped about multiple teams. So I guess we're just have to wait and see.
My team, before we get out of here, going to the ACC here, Nigel. Duke's going to see him. Louisville Cardinals, man.
Not after how Bill Self sunned my boy Pat Kelsey. Gave him the sun love tap on the chest.
That was tough. That was a tough look. That was a know your place.
You might as well have called him a word I can't say on this podcast. That's all I'm going to say on that matter.
He got sunned. He sunned. But his roster's really good. I think it'll be a really fun roster. They got a great freshman, Mikal Brown Jr., and then I just loved watching Javon Hadley play last year. Another fun thing about the transfer portals, you hear about the guys we almost got, and I'm like, well, screw it. Let me see what they're up to. Javon Hadley, and the kind of the other side of the coin with that is like, if we get Javon, we're probably not getting Joshua Jefferson. So not like it worked out is what I'm saying. But like Ryan Conwell's another guy for Louisville. I got to see him at Indiana State when he was with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar down there at Arch Madness, and he could fill it up. Like that Indiana State team was so good. I still think it was highway robbery that they didn't get put in March Madness. And then I think it's Isaac McNeely from Virginia. Just going to again, traditional ball dominant point guard. There's so many weapons on that team that he's going to be able to facilitate too. Watch out for them. ACC. Louisville might put you all on notice a little bit there. Might make things a little uncomfortable at Cameron Indoor.
When I see teams like Louisville, teams like NC State, even in the ACC, again, I like that they're getting a little bit more top heavy. I think they're better when they are. Even I'm excited to even see how that impact Caleb Wilson will have at UNC. But nonetheless, when I see a team like Louisville, it's like, it's like the meme of the guy on the news. He's like, it does bring me some concern, but I packed that thing too. So you come around here, you will get clapped. So that's my response to you on that matter. But sure. I'm excited in general, excited for college basketball. I cannot wait till Thanksgiving week because each year just seems to really up the game of like increasing the level of intensity between each matchup. I know Maui took quite the dip. So I'm not looking forward to that one. But again, these Vegas games, I think there's so many other tournaments that are now kind of getting to that Maui level that you don't just need Maui to make it or break it and make it a good Thanksgiving tournament. So that's honestly what I'm looking forward to. And obviously looking forward to Iowa State playing some better competition in the offseason. So cheers to season 3 and cheers to 25-26 season coming up here.
Fairleigh Dickinson, season opener, Hilton Coliseum, 7 p.m. on Monday. I'm guessing it's on ESPN Plus. I don't know if it's that for sure, but I'll be there as a fan. Go Cyclones. Nigel, let him cook. We're back. Season 3.
Let's go.